Welcome to the Madison Miller podcast. Today is Tuesday, January 14th, 2020. Today I'm going to recap last night's national championship game between LSU and Clemson. We'll look at last night's college basketball, NBA, and NHL games, look ahead to tonight's slate, what we know and what I question regarding the AAC and ACC for basketball, Oscar nominations at the end of the program, and my best bet of the day. Okay, we'll start with college football. LSU is your 2019-20 college football national champions. Congratulations to Ed Orgeron and his staff. They did a great job this year. They had as good as a resume as you can have for a team that's won a national championship and going undefeated, knocking off some dragons such as Alabama and then obviously Clemson in the title game. So LSU 15-0 champions, Clemson 14-1. A great game for Joe Burrow, 31 of 49, 463 yards, 5 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. Trevor Lawrence not so good. He looked human, 18 of 37, 234 yards and a fumble. Clemson actually got up 7-0 on their first drive of the game on a 1-yard run by Trevor Lawrence, or it could have been their second drive. I don't really remember. 7-0, and then LSU ties it. Burrow to Jamar Chase, 52 yards, 7-7. Second quarter field goal by P.T. Potter to make it 10-7 Clemson. Then 3 minutes later, T. Higgins, 36-yard touchdown run, 17-7 Clemson. Then you're thinking, repeat. Not so fast. Joe Burrow, literally a minute later, a 3-yard touchdown run, make it 17-14. 4 minutes later, Jamar Chase from Burrow, 14 yards, 21-17. 10 seconds left in the half. Burrow to Thad Moss for 6 yards. 28-17 halftime. Third quarter, Clemson forces a 3-and-out. Then they score on their first drive. 3-yard run for Travis Etienne. Lawrence to Amari Rodgers for a 2-point conversion. And then that makes it 28-25. Then you're thinking, Clemson's going to come back and win this game. Not so fast. 5:13 left in the third quarter. Burrow to Thad Moss, 4 yards. 35-25. Fourth quarter. Burrow to Terrence Marshall, 24 yards. 42-25 final. That was it. Clemson does not repeat, and LSU is your new national champion. Again, congratulations to Ed Orgeron and his staff. Great season. In terms of next year, if Burrow is coming back, obviously they'd be in great shape. But no Burrow, I don't even know if they're even going to be the favorite to win their own division next year because Alabama has a lot coming back. And obviously their own conference, so Georgia's there as well. Although they're losing Jake Fromm, it looks like. Auburn's going to be better with Bo Nix in year 2. Mississippi State has Mike Leach, so they're going to be a better offensive team. Ole Miss has Lane Kiffin, so that's going to be a better team. Arkansas is still a dumpster fire. So LSU has some competition within their own division. You would think Texas A&M is going to be better in year 3 under Jimbo Fisher. And then on the flip side for Clemson, I think this is your favorite to win next year's title with Trevor Lawrence coming back for what should be his final year in college. He's going to be a junior. And then their conference, it's theirs to lose, obviously. It's them and everybody else. Florida State, I think, is in a little bit of a rebuild. Mike Norvell, they're going to be a few years away from being the Florida State of old. Miami looks like they made the wrong choice with Manny Diaz, so they are really not that good there in the other division, though. And anything else regarding Clemson's division or conference, Syracuse might be a bounce-back team. Louisville, I think, will be better in year 2 under Scott Stadsfield. So, Clemson will probably be the runaway favorite in their conference and division, unlike LSU, who I think has a lot of competition within their division, in Alabama, Texas A&M, Auburn, etc., and within their conference with teams like Georgia, and then don't forget Florida with Dan Mullen as well. So just a little bit of a look ahead to next year regarding those two teams. College basketball. We'll go over the results from last night, and we'll look ahead to tonight's slate. Yesterday was a small slate because of the title game, so there wasn't really anything going on. Southern over Jackson State, 56-50. Southern 4-13. Jackson State 5-12. Cornell over Elmira, 70-33. Cornell is 3-10. BU over Loyola Maryland, 85-53. BU's with an impressive win, 10-8. Loyola Maryland 9-9. Bethune-Cookman over Morgan State, 85-78. Bethune-Cookman 9-9. Morgan State 8-11. NCAT over Delaware State, 98-77. NCAT 7-11. Delaware State 2-15. South Carolina State over Howard, 101-95 in overtime. SC State 7-8. Howard 2-16. NC Central over Maryland Eastern Shore, 69-64 in overtime. NC Central 6-11. UMass 2-16. Florida A&M over Coppin State, 65-54. Florida A&M 4-11. Coppin State 4-15. Alcorn State over Grambling, 87-69. Alcorn 6-9. Grambling 9-8. Mississippi Valley State over Alabama A&M, 72-66. Miss State 1-14. Bama A&M 5-10. Arkansas Pine Bluff over Alabama State, 61-56. Pine Bluff 3-12 and Alabama State 2-15. And last but not least, Montana over Portland State, 85-70. Montana 9-8. Portland State 8-10. Tonight's slate is much bigger and a lot of interesting games. It's big, but not humongous. It's big in terms of brand and conference games. So you're going to hear a lot of picks tonight, but my best bet, obviously, at the end of the show. 6:30 Fox Sports 1, number 21, Ohio State hosts Nebraska. Ohio State is giving 16.5. Ohio State's on a 5-game losing streak. You would think that this is where it comes to an end. I think it'll come to an end, but this is a numbers game, not a straight-up game for the most part. I do think Ohio State wins straight up, but I'm going to say Nebraska covers the 16.5. 7 o'clock ESPN, number 3 Duke at Clemson. Duke's favored by 10.5. I love Duke minus the points. Let down for Clemson after watching their football team lose. So that happens all the time. The basketball team of the same school as the football teams lays an egg. I remember Alabama last year lost the day after the title game, or it might have been the year before. And then the same thing happened to Georgia. It happened to Clemson last year, if I'm not mistaken, and then Clemson 3 years ago as well. So give me Duke minus 10.5. Best player on the court is Vernon Carey Jr. Number 11, Louisville at Pitt, 7 o'clock ACC Network. Louisville's a 6-point favorite. I'm taking Pitt plus the points. And I think this will actually be a upset victory for Pitt. I think they've done a good job this year. Jeff Capel's done very well, and this team, we'll get into them when we do what we know and what I question. I think they have a chance to make the tournament. ESPN plus 7 o'clock, Bowling Green, Western Michigan, Ohio, and Buffalo. ESPN 2, Ole Miss, Florida. Florida's giving 11.5 at home. I am taking the Rebels plus the points. The Rebels aren't as bad as the record indicates. Kermit Davis is a good coach. Gators win. Ole Miss covers. SEC Network, LSU at Texas A&M. LSU's giving 6.5 on the road. I am going to go with another underdog against the spread. That's Texas A&M. I think that Buzz Williams is getting his team on a good groove right now. LSU's a good team of their own right. I think LSU will win, but I just think this is a close game. And I just like how A&M's been playing. ESPNU, Richmond, Davidson. Davidson's a 5-point favorite. Richmond is a steal here, getting 5. I think they're going to win the game outright. Davidson's been a mess this year. A big disappointment. So give me Richmond plus the 5, and I think they're going to win the game outright. Kent State and Miami of Ohio. Central Michigan and Toledo. Ball State, Eastern Michigan. 8 o'clock, CBS Sports Network. VCU, number 13, Dayton. Dayton's an 8-point favorite at home. Dayton's been killing everyone. VCU is a good team, and I think if they get this game, it'd be a really good win for them and to pretty much save themselves a little bit. So I'm going to take Dayton minus the points. I just think Obi Toppin is so good, and I think that this Flyers team is really good, and could very well be headed for a top 5 seed in the tournament. Number 23, Texas Tech at Kansas State. Texas Tech's a 3.5-point road favorite. I'm taking the Red Raiders. Kansas State, this is not their year. They're not going to make the tournament. They're the worst team in the conference this year. So give me Texas Tech minus the points. I think they win this game by 10. Akron and Northern Illinois. Akron, 2.5-point favorite. I'm going to pick this because Akron's really good. And I think that they have a chance at an at-large. And a couple other teams in that conference are pretty good. Kent State's also 13-3. I think they'll cover their game against Miami of Ohio. And then for Akron, I think they'll cover as well. They're just better than Northern Illinois and better than a lot of teams in their conference. So give me Akron minus the 2.5. I think that's a low number. And the fact that both them and Kent State are on the road, and Kent State is a bigger favorite than Akron. But I think maybe it's because of the opponent. Northern Illinois is better than Miami of Ohio. So maybe that's part of it as well. UCF at Tulane on ESPN 3. Tulane's a 2-point home favorite. I'm going to lay the points with Tulane. I think the market is finally adjusted on Tulane and that they're a better team than giving credit for. UCF is 0-4 in conference play, so give me Tulane minus the 2. Big Ten Network, Iowa at Northwestern. Iowa's a 5.5-point favorite. They lost to Nebraska recently. This is tough. Northwestern could be tricky sometimes. I think the number's low, so give me Iowa minus the points in the bounce back spot. DePaul at number 14, Villanova, 8:30 Fox Sports 1. Villanova's a 9.5-point home favorite. DePaul's falling off a little bit. Lost to St. John's, lost a couple tough ones in conference play so far. So give me Villanova minus 9.5. They're starting to round in the Forum. Number 6, Kansas at Oklahoma, 9 o'clock on ESPN. Kansas is giving 6.5 on the road. Tough to bet against Kansas right now. But that was just a bad or a surprising kind of loss against Baylor. That really shows that Baylor might be the best team in the conference, not Kansas. Although Kansas probably has the most talent in the conference. Tough one, but I'm going to lay it with Kansas in a bounce-back spot. ESPNU, TCU at number 12, West Virginia. West Virginia is giving 7.5 at home. TCU is pretty good this year. I'm going to take them plus the points here. I don't think they're going to win. I think West Virginia will win, but TCU is not bad. If West Virginia covers this number, then I think that says a lot about the Mountaineers and how good they are. They covered against Texas Tech the other day, who I think is better than TCU. But I don't know. Maybe TCU, I just think that they have a history of playing West Virginia tight, and I feel like they've won outright a few times at the Coliseum as a dog in the past. Not suggesting they will here, but I just think this is a closer game than 7.5. I would make this probably West Virginia I'd make TCU maybe a pick 'em at home, so I feel like I'd be getting 8.5 of value here with the Horned Frogs. So give me TCU plus 7.5. I think West Virginia wins by 4. 9 o'clock on ESPN2. Number 17, Maryland at Wisconsin. Wisconsin's only 2.5 at home. Wisconsin's on a roll right now. I think they're putting themselves back in the tournament position here. So give me Wisconsin minus the 2.5. ACC Network, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest. Virginia Tech's giving 3.5 on the road. I am laying it with Virginia Tech. They're very good. I think that the market is starting to catch up with them a little bit as well as Wisconsin. And I alluded to Tulane before, teams that are playing really well. I'm going to lay it with Mike Young's team here. They are going to win, I'm going to say, by 7 points. 10 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network, Wyoming at Nevada. Nevada's laying a whopping 14.5. I think Wyoming covers this. I just think that Nevada's living off of the Musselman days here in conference play. So give me Wyoming plus the points. I think Nevada wins. 11 o'clock ESPN2, number 7, San Diego State at Fresno State. San Diego State's laying 8. I'm going to lay it with the Aztecs here on the road. Fresno State's not very good. Could be a trap game, and I could be wrong, but I just think that San Diego State's just on a roll and really poised to steal a 1 seed here. So give me San Diego State minus the 8 points. NBA. I'm going to go over last night's games and look ahead to what should be a fun slate tonight. Pelicans over the Pistons, 117-110 in overtime. Pelicans were without Brandon Ingram, among many others. New Orleans 15-26, Detroit 14-27. Pacers over the Sixers, 101-95. Indiana 25-15, Philly 25-16. Celtics over the Bulls, 113-101. Boston 27-11, Chicago 14-27. Thunder over the Timberwolves, 117-104. Thunder's 23-17, Minnesota 15-24. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, by the way, a 20-20-10 game. That's incredible for somebody that was looked at as a promising young asset when they acquired him in that trade that sent Paul George to the Clippers. So that's really awesome that they got something meaningful back for him, as well as all those draft picks. And a lot of people passed on him, like teams like the New York Knicks are probably kicking themselves, thinking, what were we thinking? Although Kevin Knox was looked upon as a better player in college than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So they look like they're wrong right now. Magic over the Kings, 114-112. Orlando 19-21. Sacramento 15-25. Aaron Gordon had a 3-point play with 1.1 seconds left in the game. The Blazers defeat the Hornets 115-112. Blazers with a big win. The highlight of this game was Damian Lillard shooting it from 40 feet. Again, Portland 17-24, Charlotte 15-28. Lakers over the Cavs 128-99. They blow them out after the Cavs got off to a solid start. Lakers 33-7, Cleveland 12-28. LeBron has a good game against his ex-team. 6 games tonight: 7:30 Suns Hawks, Jazz Nets, 8 o'clock Knicks Bucks, NBA TV Rockets Grizzlies. 10:30 NBA TV, Mavs Warriors, Cavs against the Clippers. NHL. Look back on last night's slate and ahead to the games tonight. Yesterday's slate, only 5 games. Isles lose at the Rangers 6-2. Big win for the Rangers just to get themselves on the right path after a bad loss against the Blues. 22-19-4. Islanders 27-13-4. Habs over the Flames 2-0. Big win for Montreal 20-7. Calgary 25-18-5. Flyers over the Bruins 6-5 in a shootout. Flyers come from behind the win. Great win for Philly 24-16-6. Boston 27-8-12. Caps over the Hurricanes 2-0. The Capitals 31-11-5. Carolina 27-17-2. Blues over the Ducks 4-1. Blues 30-10-7. Anaheim 17-24-5. Tonight's slate 7 o'clock. Golden Knights Sabres, Devils, Maple Leafs, Kings, Lightning, Red Wings, Islanders, NBC, SN, Wild, Penguins. Pittsburgh's a favorite. I don't know who's on the call of the game. Pierre Maguire and maybe Kenny Albert. Maybe it's John Forsland. We'll see. I'm going to take the Penguins here at home. They're the better team, playing really well right now. Minnesota's in a little bit of a rebuild, and I think they're deciding on whether to ship some guys out for the deadline or not. So give me the Penguins here at home. Bruins, Blue Jackets, Blackhawks, Senators at 7:30. 8 o'clock, Canucks, Jets. 9 o'clock, Stars, Avalanche. Predators, Oilers, and Sharks at the Coyotes. Now we're going to do what we know and what I question with the college basketball teams in the AAC and the ACC. We'll start with the AAC. We'll start with Cincinnati. We're going in ABC order here. What we know is that this team is not what it was under Mick Cronin. Obviously, a new coach in town, and this team isn't the same. Although they're 3-1 to start conference play, which is a good thing. Maybe they do turn it around, but this just isn't the same team. And my question for them is that, despite the not so great non-con and whatnot, can Jerron Cumberland win the AAC Player of the Year? Like I said, they're off to a good start in conference play, and he's somebody that is one of the better players in that conference. UConn. Conference play is off to a slow start despite the win over Tulane. Question, can this team somehow sneak into the big dance? Should be interesting. A lot of pundits think that this team's going to end up making the big dance. I'm not so sure. East Carolina. This team is somewhat better than expected. My question for them is, can this surprising play continue into conference play? Right now they're 8-8, which to me is a bit of a surprise for this team. I believe this team won only 3 games in conference play last year and 10 overall last year, so they're going to blow by 10 and probably blow by the 3 as well. So a really nice improvement here for the Pirates of East Carolina. Houston. Quentin Grimes has made a big impact to this team. My question is, can this team make a similar run to last year? This team last year was very, very good. I think they only had 4 losses all last year, including one in the tournament, but they're a 3-loss team going into the big dance. I think they were a 2 seed and made the Sweet 16. So we'll see if this team proves to be as good. Memphis. James Weissman's absence is starting to show. They lost to Georgia, close game, lost to Wichita State, and they're clearly missing Weissman. And my question is, can this team still get a top 16 in the tournament? Sans no Weissman. Weissman's no longer on the team, but some of those losses came before it was announced that Weissman was leaving the program. So we'll see how the committee judges them and how the rest of the regular season unfolds for them. SMU. They have been the conference's biggest surprise this season. It was a disappointing season last year, and then this year off to a surprisingly great start. Can they somehow get a 5 or a 6 seed in the tournament? Like, this is crazy. They are, no question, probably going to make the tournament. And to me, it's a question of seeding, whether it could be top 6 or not. And somehow, maybe they go on a surprise run like Houston last year. South Florida. This team has not lived up to expectations, sans good recruiting. Question, is Brian Gregory on the hot seat? Brian Gregory's done a good job recruiting, as I mentioned, but I really am not convinced that he's the guy going forward, although he hasn't been there that long. These AAC teams are very dysfunctional. Maybe I'm just saying that because this program just fired Charlie Strong after a couple years for football, and they didn't live up to expectations either. Temple. Quentin Rose and Nate Pierre-Louis are a very good duet in their backcourt. My question is, can they play good spoiler in conference play? This was always a good spoiler team in conference play under Fran Dunphy and made the tournament on occasion, but probably not going to make the tournament this year. Tulane. Ron Hunter was a fantastic hire. This guy really is a program changer. He turned Georgia State around. Looks like he's going to turn Tulane around. And my question is can Tashawn Hightower challenge for Conference Player of the Year? He's against Cumberland. He's against some other guys in this conference. Quentin Grimes. Maybe somebody from SMU. Maybe some of those guys that are stepping up for Memphis without Weissman. Maybe somebody from Wichita State. We'll see. But Hightower really has had a good season. Tulsa. Conference play is off to a promising start. They had some upset wins. But my question is, Frank Haith. is he on the hot seat? I just feel like this guy has done a nice job. I know they made the tournament that one year that they probably shouldn't have made it. Should have been St. Bonaventure over them, but we all know that deal. I've said that on the podcast so many times. But Frank Haith, I think, is somebody that could be in trouble. UCF. Conference play is off to a horrible start. 0-4, I alluded to it before. They obviously missed Taco Fall, who's now in the NBA. Aubrey Dawkins now in the NBA. And my question is, could Donnie Dawkins be another coach on the hot seat? Dawkins, good recruiting for the most part. Obviously made the round of 32 last year, but this year has not provided the results that they would have hoped. So I'm not convinced that Johnny Dawkins is safe. Wichita State. They're back to being what the program strives to be after what was a down year last year. And my question for them is, can they make a long tournament run? Obviously, they made the Final Four in 2011 under Greg Marshall. They went undefeated in the regular season in the 2013-14 year. And that was obviously when they were still with the MWC. They have a really good resume. Their lone losses against West Virginia, and West Virginia is really good. They're number 12 in the country right now. So Wichita State, good on them for getting back to what that program is supposed to be. ACC, Boston College. ABC order again. We're going for the order of the teams here. Boston College, they have a nice balanced scoring attack for this team, but my question is, can Jim Christian survive another year? Christian's been on the hot seat for, it seems like 2-3 years now, and he is getting free pass after free pass. It's like another coach in this conference, or another maybe 2 or 3 coaches that we'll get to. Clemson. Amir Sims is on a good scoring run right now and has been great all season. Another coach I think that is in trouble could be Brad Brownwell. So my question for Clemson is Brad Brownwell in trouble? They made the tournament a few years ago, were like a 4 or 5 seed, made the Sweet 16, and now they're back to being an afterthought in the conference. Duke. They are a Stephen F. Austin buzzer beater away from being undefeated and the unanimous number 1 team in the country. And my question is, can Vernon Carey Jr. win the National Player of the Year? He looks like he's going to be the ACC Freshman of the Year, ACC Player of the Year possibly, National Freshman of the Year maybe. And will he take after Zion and win the National Player of the Year? It's going to be very interesting to see. Florida State. They have a resume full of sexy wins, and losses, now that we look back, are not bad. When they lost to Pitt on opening night, everyone thought that was a bad loss. When they lost to Indiana, people were like, eh. But Indiana looks like they are a good team and probably going to make the tournament. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. But my question for Florida State is, can they get a top 4 seed? I think absolutely. Georgia Tech continues to be a mediocre program. And obviously, they're banned from the tournament this year. My question is Josh Pastner in trouble? I think there's a chance he's on the hot seat because of all the whole ban from the tournament thing. And normally coaches that are involved with scandals get fired. We saw that yesterday with the Astros. And then the next team I'm going to talk about, Louisville. Rick Pitino obviously lost his job because of their scandal a few years ago. Louisville. Jordan Nwora is living up to expectations. A lot of people thought that he was going to be the ACC Player of the Year, but Vernon Carey's on in Duke, and Duke's Duke. So if Nwora doesn't get it, then it's not really his fault. And my question for Louisville is that, can this team win a championship? I think that they are certainly in the conversation. This team's pretty good, led by Nwora. Chris Mack's a great coach. Great hire to replace Pitino, obviously. Miami. Chris Leggs and Cameron McGusty are a fine duo for them. And they're off to a nice start. this year. And my question for them is that can they sneak into the dance? I know a lot of people are judging them because they got blown out by Duke. And people always say how you do against the Beasts is really who you are. But that may not be true for Miami and another team we're going to get to that's already played Duke in conference play. And I do think Miami can somehow sneak in there if things break right. North Carolina, this has been the year from hell for this program. Obviously, a lot of injuries, bad losses, etc. And my question is, will we see Cole Anthony again this season? I'm going to say no. I think the losses have piled up to the point where I just don't think the Carolinas going to be in the tournament unless they somehow win the ACC tournament and Anthony comes back. And listen, I don't think Anthony's coming back. So if Anthony came back for the tournament, the ACC tournament, and ripped off like 5 straight wins, then obviously they'd get the auto bid. Or if they made the conference title game with 15 losses, 14 losses, and the 15th loss being the conference title game because they're a big brand they can get in a la Florida last year. NC State. This team is nicely balanced. I like the balance of the roster on this team. And my question is that can they also sneak into the tournament? Conference play, I believe they're 2-3 right now, but some of those losses obviously came against superior teams. Notre Dame, conference play is not off to a good start for this program, and my question for them is that can they get their way back to relevancy this season? Obviously, last year was a disaster for them. They were the last place team in the conference. I don't think that'll be the case again this year, but we'll see. Pitt, this team's off to a fine start. I just picked them to win outright against Louisville. And I really think that this team is so far the surprise of the ACC so far. And my question for them is, can they make the dance? If they beat Louisville, forget it. I think they're in. They are a big upset win away from the dance. And no, that win is not at North Carolina. Not this year. Last year, maybe. This year, hell no. You got to beat somebody like Duke or Louisville. They already got one big upset win. That was over Florida State to start the season, and that win looks very, very good right now because Florida State's a damn good team of their own. Syracuse. This program is not living up to standards. The last few years, the Syracuse program really hasn't lived up to standards in the regular season. They've been like a middle tournament seed. I know one year they made the Final Four, and they lost to Carolina in the Final Four. But they really haven't been relevant, and then they got banned from a tournament maybe once or twice. It might have been twice that they were banned from a tournament. To think about that. And my question is this it for Jim Boeheim? I know there's been retirement rumors for years now. I know a few years ago there were rumors that he was going to retire and Mike Hopkins was going to take over, but Hopkins ended up going to Washington. But is this finally it for Jim Boeheim, and he hangs it up after what has been a Hall of Fame career for him? Virginia, this is not the same team that won the title last year and has not been the same team under Tony Bennett as it's been over the last 5-6 seasons. It just isn't. And my question for them is, are they in danger of missing the whole thing? That'd be insane if Virginia, your national champions, missed the tournament entirely. Like, that'd be weird if both them and North Carolina missed the tournament in the same year. That would be crazy. Virginia Tech. Mike Young has been an outstanding hire. Question, can they make the tournament in Young's first year? Absolutely they can. They need to get, I think, maybe a few more big wins and avoid those trap losses. If they lose tonight, then I think they're in a little bit of trouble. But say they win tonight and rip off a couple. If they beat Duke about a month ago, then we'd be talking about them as a tournament lock. Right now, they're not a tournament lock, but I think that they can absolutely make it. Wake Forest, the last one. They have some interesting wins, but bad losses. They have the big win over Xavier, but they lost to Charlotte. Like, this is another team with a weird resume. Kind of like Pitt, but worse. And I compare them to Pitt because Pitt has lost to Nichols, and then they have the win over Florida State. But Pitt's a good team, and that was probably just a letdown game after the Florida State win earlier in the year. But anyway, back to Wake Forest, and my question for them is, will Danny Manning finally be canned? Danny Manning's been a coach on the hot seat for a few years here now, just like Jim Christian at Boston College. So that's another big question, in my opinion, for the ACC. Now we're going to talk about the Oscar nominations. I wanted to get to this yesterday, but the Astros thing overshadowed it. This is among many of the reasons why I changed my podcast name from Ultimate Sports Podcast to the Madison Miller Podcast, because I wanted to do a little pop culture in it, and this is the first opportunity I have. So obviously the Academy Awards, February 9th, it's the Sunday after the Super Bowl. The Grammys moved to the Sunday before the Super Bowl, which is the day of the Pro Bowl. So the nominees: Best Picture, you have Ford versus Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, The Joker, Little Woman, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. I'll have the same nominees that obviously were in the Golden Globes. Some of them were different, obviously. Rocket Man was a nominee for Best Motion Picture for musical or comedy, because obviously the Golden Globes, they break them up. And in a couple different runs, obviously Ford versus Ferrari was not up for Best Motion Picture for the Golden Globes, and it is for the Oscars. So a couple different ones here. Best Director, you have Martin Scorsese from The Irishman, Todd Phillips from The Joker, Sam Mendes from 1917, Quentin Tarantino in Once Upon a Hollywood, and Bong Joon-ho for Parasite. Obviously, my picks for this, I'll do it on the podcast before the Oscars, which would be Friday, February 7th. Best Actor, Antonio Banderas in Pain and Glory as Salvador Mayo, Leonardo DiCaprio of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as Rick Dalton, Adam Driver from Marriage Story as Charlie Barber, Joaquin Phoenix from The Joker as Arthur Fleck, and Jonathan Pryce from The Two Popes as Cardinal George Mario Bergoglio. Best Actress, Cynthia Erivo as Harriet from Harriet as Harriet Tubman. Scarlett Johansson from Marriage Story as Nicole Barber. Saoirse Ronan from Little Women as Jo March. Charlize Theron from Bombshell as Megyn Kelly, and Renee Zellweger as Judy Garland from Judy. Best Supporting Actor. This one was questionable for me. Tom Hanks from A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood as Fred Rogers. Anthony Hopkins from The Two Popes as Pope Benedict. Al Pacino from The Irishman as Jimmy Hoffa. Joe Pesci from The Irishman as Russell Bolafonio. And Brad Pitt from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as Cliff Booth. Best Supporting Actress. Kathy Bates as Barbara Jewell from Richard Jewell. Laura Dern as Nora Franshaw from Marriage Story. Scarlett Johansson as Rosie Belton from Jojo Rabbit. Florence Pugh as Amy March from Little Women. And Margot Robbie as Kayla Possible from Bombshell. Best Original Screenplay. Knives Out, Rian Johnson. Marriage Story, Noah Baumbach. 1917, Sam Mendes and Christy Wilson Cairns. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino. And Parasite, Bong Joon-ho and Han Jin-won. Best Adapted Screenplay, The Irishman, Steve Zalen. Jojo Rabbit, Taika Waititi. Joker, Todd Phillips and Scott Silver. Little Women, Greta Gerwig. And The Two Popes, Anthony McCartan. Best Animated Feature Film, How to Train Your Dragon, I Lost My Body, Klaus, Missing Link, and Toy Story 4. Best International Feature Film, Corpus Christi, Honeyland, Les Miserables, Pain and Glory, and Parasite. Best Documentary Feature, American Factory, The Cave, The Edge of Democracy, For Sama, and Honeyland. Best Documentary in Short Subject, In the Absence, Learning to Skateboard in a War Zone, Life Overtakes Me, St. Louis Superman, and Walk, Run, Cha-Cha. Best Live Action Short Film, Brotherhood, NEFTA Football Club, The Neighbor's Window, Saria and a Sister. Best Animated Short Film, Tessera, Hair Love, Kit Bull, Memorable Sister. Best Original Score, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, Star Wars, Rise of the Skywalker. Best Original Song, I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away from Toy Story 4. I'm Gonna Love Me Again from Rocket Man. I'm Still Standing With You from Breakthrough. Into the Unknown from Frozen 2. I'm surprised Frozen 2's not up for Best Animated Film, by the way. And Stand Up from Harriet. Best Sound Editing, Ford vs. Ferrari, Joker, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Star Wars. Best Sound Mixing, Ad Astra, Ford vs. Ferrari, Joker, 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Best Production Design, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. Best Cinematography, The Irishman, Joker, The Lighthouse, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Best Makeup and Hairstyling, Bombshell, Joker, Judy, Maleficent, Mistress of the Evil, in 1917. Best Costume Design, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Best Film Editing, Ford vs. Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Parasite. Best Visual Effects, The Avengers Endgame, The Irishman, The Lion King, 1917, and Star Wars, The Rise of the Skywalker. And that's it for the nominations for the 92nd edition of the Academy Awards. And last but not least, Best Bet of the Day, brought to you by DraftKings. 2 picks for you today. 1 college basketball, 1 NBA. We'll start with college basketball. I just love Richmond tonight, getting the points against Davidson. Davidson's overvalued from the preseason. Richmond has been one of the bigger surprises this year, not only in the Atlantic 10, but in all of college basketball this year. So give me Richmond plus 109 or plus 5, and their value is on it as well because the money is on Davidson at minus 112. I'm getting the plus 5 at minus 109, so that's really good. NBA best bet, tough one here, but I am going to take, let's take a shot here with, don't feel good about it, but because it's a return of a star player that I forgot to mention, Utah's minus 3 at Brooklyn. Kyrie Irving is back, but I'm not convinced that Brooklyn is just going to turn into this like super team here with Irving back in the lineup. So give me Utah minus 3. I think it'll be close, but there's just not anything I think is sexy on the NBA side for best bets tonight. That's it for the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow with college basketball, NBA, and NHL. Look ahead to tomorrow. what we know and what I question for the Big 10, the Big 12, and the Big East. We will also do my second NFL mock draft now that we know who's in the Final Four. And we have more guys that have declared for the draft and more guys that committed to state of school and whatnot. So I hope you guys have a great night, everybody.